With the fifth pick in the first round of the 2001 draft, the San Diego Chargers select LaDainian Tomlinson, running back from TCU.
LaDainian Tomlinson, the special one, the gifted one.
Oh, my. He just makes you look foolish.
Week in and week out, he's worth the ticket price.
He had great moves, great vision.
Y'all probably have heard that he slept with the football. That is not a myth. That is the truth.
There's a moment that happens in every competitor's career. The moment you realize you're not facing another player. You're facing a problem. For an entire generation of NFL defenders, that moment came the first time they tried to tackle number 21.
Something extraordinary. When you were 5, you started sleeping with a football?
Yeah, and holding it, as I went to sleep.
Your younger brother, LeVar, said that ball would lie in your arms like a girlfriend.
Yeah.
And you kept on holding it for 15 years, I understand.
Yes, I did.
A lot longer than most marriages.
Yeah.
They'd seen the film. They knew the stats. They thought they were ready. Then the ball was snapped, and everything they thought they knew about stopping a running back disappeared. LaDainian Tomlinson didn't just beat you, he forced you to adjust. And when the game was over, when the cameras were off, defenders admitted something quietly. Stopping him required more than a standard game plan. This is what happened when defenses faced one of the most complete offensive weapons the NFL had ever seen. If you're ready to dive deep into the stories that never made the highlight reels, the matchups that reshaped defensive strategy, and a legacy that goes far beyond box scores, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Let's get into it.
I've seen trained monkeys, donkeys, elephants, big old tigers and lions. I said, you've never seen a trained jackrabbit. And I said, you're like a jackrabbit when you get the ball. You don't know where you're going.
Still to this day, it's in between the nightstand and the bed. Here's the bed, here's the nightstand, there's the football on the floor.
Tell the guys you watched. He was like, no, don't.
Yeah. All right.
You can say it.
Well, I know it's gonna be a clip, so I'm just prefacing who I watched growing up as a kid. Not saying best all time for whoever is gonna see it on X, Twitter. I'd say I grew up. I watched LaDainian Tomlinson highlights all the time when he was with the Chargers. Before. I mean, those highlights are just different.
San Diego, 2001, the NFL Draft. The Chargers are on the clock with the 5th overall pick. Michael Vick, one of the most electric quarterback prospects the league had ever evaluated, is still available. The Chargers go another direction. They select a running back from TCU. At the time, the reaction was mixed. Analysts debated positional value. Fans questioned the decision. But what the Chargers saw was not just a running back. They saw versatility, power, speed, vision, and elite receiving ability, all in one player.
He was one of those kids that you just cannot ignore. He was one of those kids that you sit back and like, wow, man, this boy here, you keep it up, you're going to be something someday.
I remember I wanted to go. Of course, I want to do everything he did, but, he got to go.
LaDainian is one of those rare kids that he doesn't ask for anything. And so when you look at him asking and he's so joyful about it, you're going to work every way possible to do whatever you can to get that dream for him. He begged me, because I was all set to take him with. There was no way I was leaving him behind. I looked at him and I go, you know what? This kid has never, ever, ever caused me any problems. So I said, okay, LaDainian. I said, okay, but I'll be down for every football game. He said, I know, and he hugged me. Thank you, Mama. Thank you, thank you.
First, let's talk about what made him different. In 2001, most running backs fit a clear mold. Power backs ran through defenders. Speed backs ran past them. Receiving backs contributed in space but rarely carried the full workload. Tomlinson didn't fit neatly into any one category. His rookie season told the story. 1,236 rushing yards, 10 rushing touchdowns, 59 receptions. He wasn't just productive, he was adaptable.
Coming out of college, you had a report commission that would basically project where you'd go in the NFL if you decided to come out early. How frustrating were the results of that report for you?
Well, it was a shock to my system. It was really, eye-opening to, they was projecting me to go 3rd round, and I felt like, for one, I felt like the things that I had just done, I know it was my first year starting, but I led the nation in rushing over a guy, in Ron Dane, who was projected to go first round, and I was gonna go third round. So in other words, they was telling me that there was 15 other running backs at the time that was better than I was. And so, it just motivated me more than anything. I mean,
And largely because of where you went to school, you think?
Right, okay. Absolutely. Because I went to TCU and I didn't get much exposure.
Right.
We wasn't a national, program, a dominant program. Or the big schools, Texas, Oklahoma, these teams didn't take a look at me because really they didn't know who I was.
I heard it all. I heard that, I was too small and wasn't fast enough and everything that go in between. When I was playing in high school, I remember I used to hear things from parents about, I was too small to play that position, and even if, I was successful in high school, I never would make it in college. I just didn't have the skills to make it in college. And so I heard it all, and it definitely was motivating because, as an athlete, that's what drives you, is people saying you can't do something, and you want to prove them wrong.
With records on the line, I hand it to him and a hold it. 35-40, 35-30, 25-20, 15-10, 5, touchdown, TCU. 38 carries, 379 yards, and 6 touchdowns.
Defensive game plans that worked against most backs didn't apply cleanly to him. Load the box and he could hurt you as a receiver. Drop into coverage and he could control the game on the ground. By his second season, it was clear San Diego wasn't using him conventionally. He was heavily involved in both the running and passing game, creating matchup problems defenses struggled to solve. But before the records, before the MVP, before the legacy was cemented, there was a season that changed everything. The year it all exploded.
This your boy Kimbo Slice. You are in my backyard. Who we got here is LT. Now we're getting ready to show y'all the reason why he is the man in the league. Check this out.
This is the old school way, back in the day when we didn't have nothing. This is what we used to do, taking y'all back. Let's go do this.
Let's go. Come on. One. Come on. I can do this all day. This is my little sister's car. You can do it. Only 2,000 pounds.
LT stands for something that I think a lot of people feel like we're losing.
I've been around football players, basketball, baseball, every sport possible. And still to this day, I've never seen anyone that has that work ethic that he does.
We feel that greatness was in him way before he became famous.
He's not short, but he's stocky and he's powerful. And so you think once he gets on the edge, you think that you're always going to catch him, but you don't.
The Chargers made a major offseason decision. Drew Brees left in free agency. Phillip Rivers took over as the starting quarterback. Conventional wisdom said a young quarterback would need time. San Diego leaned into something else. Marty Schottenheimer had a straightforward approach. If you have one of the best running backs in football, you build around him. So they did. In 2006, LaDainian Tomlinson carried the ball 348 times. He averaged 5.2 yards per carry.
Where we said, wouldn't that be something if we played a high school all-star game together? Here we are at the Heisman together. If we played in the NFL together. Sure enough, a few months later, LT goes in the first round, I go in the second round at the San Diego Chargers, and the Chargers were 1-15 the year before.
We traded back, and he came in to me on Friday night and said we made a trade. And I said, well, where are we at? He said, number 5. And I said, well, what do you think? He said, well, you never know for sure. There's this running back out of TCU that he said, he's special. That's the word John Butler used to describe LT, special. And he said, if we can get him, he's going to make a difference on our team.
That kind of efficiency, sustained over that kind of volume, wore defenses down week after week. But the story of that season isn't just about workload, it's about predictability and how defenses still couldn't stop it. Week 7 against the Rams, Tomlinson controlled the game on the ground and found the end zone multiple times. Week 8 against Cleveland, he produced one of the most explosive rushing performances of the season. Week 9 against Cincinnati, San Diego leaned on him even while playing from behind, and he delivered 4 total touchdowns in a high-scoring comeback win. By mid-season, the league understood something clearly. They weren't just facing a great running back. They were dealing with a player who could dominate games in more than one way, and that realization changed how defenses approached the position.
What's your first memory of coming into the National Football League?
Yeah, so my mom came my first mini camp. Get to the first practice. And we don't got on pass or anything. It's shorts, shells, helmets. And the first play, I'm supposed to block Junior Seau.
I cause havoc. Whether it's a receiver, a running back, or an offensive lineman, you're definitely going to have to deal with Junior.
Soon as the snap came, Junior comes right through the A-gap. And so I got to try to avoid the quarterback. And I'm thinking, all right, we don't have on pads. So I'm going to fit him up. Just kind of put my hands on him. And Junior ran through me. He knocked me back and just kind of looked at me. It's like, yeah, first round rookie, we'll see. And so coach said, get back in there. We're doing the same play. And I'm like, why are we doing the same play?
Long after the final whistle, you're starting to see the pattern, but the defenders, they were living it. And living it was a completely different experience. There's something you need to understand about NFL defenses. These are elite athletes, players who dominated at every level before they ever reached the league. High school standouts, college stars, first-round picks. They're not used to being outmatched. And then they played the Chargers. Linebackers came off the field frustrated. Defensive backs missed tackles they'd made their entire careers. Defensive linemen who'd earned Pro Bowl honors found themselves neutralized play after play. Because when you game planned for Tomlinson, you weren't just preparing for a running back. You were preparing for everything.
He really reminded me day one of Walter Payton. He had the ability to throw the football, which Walter could do. His ability to run routes and catch the ball. Third down pass protections, he knew what was going on. His work ethic.
Obviously his ability on the field speaks for itself. It's incredible. His work ethic and everything he did in the locker room and how he performed on the field set a basis and something that, our players, other players could look at.
Consider this. In 2006, Tomlinson caught 56 passes, production comparable to some starting receivers. He also threw a touchdown pass that season on a designed trick play, lining up as a runner and delivering the ball into the end zone. It worked because defenses had to account for every possible option when he was on the field. And then there were the touchdowns. By mid-season, Tomlinson had already reached 18 total touchdowns and was on pace to challenge the single-season record. The league knew it. Coaches knew it. Every defense on the schedule knew what was coming. What happened next was remarkable.
Right, wrong, or otherwise, you have favorites. LaDainian Tomlinson was a favorite for me. I loved him like he was my own.
A little pitch back to LT. He's looking to throw towards the end zone. Gates got it! Touchdown! LT doing it all. Is there anything LT cannot do?
Marty would say, LaDainian, I need you not to be good today. I need you to be great.
Week 11 against Denver. The Broncos entered the game with one of the league's top run defenses and a clear plan. Limit Tomlinson and control the game. That plan didn't last long. He broke off a long touchdown run early, added multiple scores as the game unfolded, and controlled the tempo from start to finish. By the end of the day, he had produced one of the most dominant performances of the season, both as a runner and as a receiver. That game pushed his touchdown total past 20, with weeks still remaining. And that's when the story shifted. The number to beat was 28, the record set the previous season. Many believed it would stand for years. Tomlinson tied it with games still left on the schedule, Week 14, December 10th, 2006. San Diego versus Denver again. Late in the fourth quarter, Tomlinson took a handoff on a play that appeared broken from the start. The defender was free in the backfield. The blocking collapsed. The margin for error was gone. He stayed composed. One decisive cut, a burst to the edge, and suddenly he was in the end zone.
I was crying in the huddle just because I knew we were about to do something. I had tears in my eyes snapping. I was like, oh God, don't mess this snap up.
And I'm like, all right, LT, I said, get on my hip and don't dip. Let's go. We're going to score this touchdown. I'm like, this is going to be great. I get to lead LTN. I'm going to be on NFL Network. This is going to be great.
When you got the ball inside the 2-yard line, everybody in the stands knew what you were going to do with it.
You knew the LT chants were going to start, and he was going to get in there.
Starts it outside, into the end zone. Charger fans are witnesses to history.
I remember the offensive line.
That's why you're the greatest. That's why you're the greatest.
The joy they had picking him up, and just everybody felt a part in it.
The great number 21, as humble as the day is long, celebrated with all of his teammates in the end zone. There was no spotlight dance.
Touchdown number 29, a new NFL record. He finished the season with 31 total touchdowns, a number that still stands as one of the most extraordinary achievements in league history. But this wasn't an isolated spike. The season before, he scored 20 touchdowns. The season after, he scored 18 while leading the league in rushing again. The 2006 season wasn't a fluke. It was the peak of sustained dominance. And when defenders talk about facing him, they don't start with the records. They talk about the preparation. Film study is supposed to give you answers, tendencies, habits, predictability. But with Tomlinson, film only confirmed one thing. There was no single way to stop him.
Watching each milestone, you know, as he broke each record after each record, it was incredible. It was almost surreal because it was like, what record did he break now? And are you kidding me? And it was just like one after the other.
How many touchdowns he had that year? Was it 26? 31 touchdowns? 31 touchdowns in one season? It's a crazy number.
He ran the same concepts differently depending on how defenses flowed. His footwork changed, his patience shifted, he adjusted in real time. Execution had to be perfect for an entire game just to keep him in check. And even then, it usually wasn't enough. 5 Pro Bowls, 3 first-team All-Pro selections, the 2006 MVP award. Those are the official accolades. But there's another part of his legacy that still sparks debate. Because for all the dominance, there's one thing missing from his resume: no Super Bowl ring. It's the first thing critics mention. It's the shortcut argument in debates about greatness. Championships carry weight, especially in the NFL. But the full picture matters. Tomlinson played in 10 playoff games. He rushed for 468 yards and scored 7 touchdowns. His overall playoff record was even, not the profile of a player who vanished under pressure. Still, one game defines the conversation. January 14th, 2007. The Chargers were 14-2, the top seed in the AFC, coming off one of the greatest individual seasons the league had ever seen. And then New England arrived. And that's where the legacy conversation truly begins. Final score, Patriots 24, Chargers 21. Tomlinson's stat line, 23 carries, 123 yards, 2 touchdowns. Read that again. He had 123 yards and 2 scores, and his team lost. But somehow, that loss became his fault. The narrative wrote itself. Great in the regular season, disappears in the playoffs. Except he didn't disappear. He showed up. His team lost anyway. Want to know what really happened in that game? Marlon McCree intercepted Tom Brady with minutes left. Game over. Chargers win, except McCree tried to return it, fumbled, and the Patriots recovered. New England scored, San Diego lost. Not one word of that sentence involves LaDainian Tomlinson. But his legacy took the hit. The next year, 2007 AFC Championship game, Chargers versus Patriots again, a chance at redemption, a chance to get to the Super Bowl, and Tomlinson played the entire game on a torn MCL. Let that sink in, a torn MCL, an injury that sidelines most players for weeks. He played through it, 13 carries, 42 yards against the best defense in football while playing on one leg. San Diego lost 21-12, and once again, the conversation became about what Tomlinson didn't do instead of what he did while literally unable to run at full speed.
And there isn't anybody that does more for it than LaDainian, and This will be my 6th year here with the Chargers, and he's a great teammate, a great person.
He's absolutely one of the best guys I've ever been around, and probably one of the best guys I've ever played football with, and probably one of the best that I will ever play football with. He's really humble, and he's a great guy, and I'm really glad that everything got settled down. He's able to stay here for more.
What's more important, what you do on the field or what you do off the field?
I think definitely what I do off the field. People may remember something I did on the field for a couple of days, maybe a week, but the things that I do and we do in the community is something that people remember for the rest of their lives because they're touched by it.
Off the field, he was equal. He was an equal to what he did on the field. His community involvement, how he cares about people in general, and what he wants to do about it. I mean, this is a man who gets engaged in the community.
Who we have here?
Here's what opponents remember about facing him in January. He got more dangerous, more focused. The 2004 wild card game against the Jets, 20 carries, 134 yards, 2 touchdowns in overtime. The back who'd dazzle you with finesse in September would run through you in the playoffs. But football is a team sport until someone needs a scapegoat. Then it becomes about one player. You want to know the cruelest irony? The same people who criticize him for not winning a Super Bowl will tell you Barry Sanders is the greatest running back ever. Barry Sanders, 0 rings. But somehow that's excusable because the Lions were terrible. The Chargers went 14-2 with Tomlinson. But when they lost in the playoffs, it was his fault. The logic doesn't hold up. It never did. And here's what makes it even more frustrating. The players who actually competed against him in those playoff games, they tell a completely different story. A story about a running back who elevated his game when the stakes were highest. A story about a player who carried teams that had no business being in championship games in the first place. But nobody wants to hear that story because the ring count is easier.
It's easy for people on the outside to kind of take what he does for granted, thinking, oh, this guy's a superstar, but he doesn't have to do this. He doesn't have to give his time, not only for this event, for all the other events that he does, and this is something he does out of the kindness of his heart.
It's going to make you feel so much better later on in life.
When he goes out there and he goes to work, you know that he's there for you. He's a team guy, and he's always, not that he's a motivational speaker, but he's always motivating everybody else to work harder, achieve more, and to strive for success.
It's not about him, it's about the team. And he shows up to work every day. He follows the rules. He's not breaking ranks and trying to get special treatment. And that sets the tone for everybody else on the team.
It's always leading by example. He always tries to do it the best he can, to be the best he can be. And so with that example, he expects the people around him to follow and be the best they can do.
Simpler, more convenient for hot takes and debate shows. So let's ask a different question. What did the men who actually had to stop him think? Not the analysts who never played it down, not the fans who watched from their couches, the defenders who spent January trying to tackle the most complete running back they'd ever seen. Because when you hear what they actually said, the playoff narrative falls apart completely. Here's what separated Tomlinson from every other elite back. He made defensive coordinators choose which way they wanted to lose. Stack the box, he'd catch 8 passes for 90 yards. Play coverage, he'd run for 150. Try to do both, good luck with that. 624 career receptions. That's not a running back stat. That's a #1 receiver on half the teams in the league. 4,672 receiving yards, more than some Hall of Fame tight ends. But the catches weren't the scary part. It was where he lined up. Slot receiver, out wide, flexed off the line. The Chargers would motion him into formations that forced defenses to declare their coverage pre-snap. And once they declared it, Tomlinson knew exactly where the weakness was.
He leads this team in a very quiet, egoless, selfless way. It's been his faith, it's been his family, and it's been football. And I would say in that order. The course he follows, the dedication that he has to his family, they're all great examples of Christ.
I think where I got my work ethic from, again, my mother, I seen at times, her working 2 jobs. I see her in the morning and I see her at night, because throughout the day, she was trying to make a living to put food on the table for us, to put clothes on our back, so, I always felt like if my mom can work 2 jobs, doing something she really didn't like doing, but she had to do to provide for the family, something that I love doing, playing football,
why not work as hard as I possibly can doing it and try to be the best that I possibly can be?
He threw 7 career touchdown passes. 7. Running backs don't throw touchdowns. They hand the ball off and get out of the way. Tomlinson would take the handoff, roll out, and drop dimes to wide receivers in the end zone. Defensive coordinators around the league started designing schemes specifically to contain him. They called it Tomlinson proofing. It never worked because you can't game plan for a player who can beat you 5 different ways. But there was one thing about him that scared opponents more than his versatility, something that had nothing to do with physical ability. The same year Tomlinson shattered the touchdown record, he shared the Walter Payton Man of the Year award with Drew Brees. The honor recognized excellence on and off the field. His Touching Lives Foundation fed 2,100 families every Thanksgiving. Not through donations. He showed up personally, handed out turkeys, talked to families, made kids feel seen. He provided college scholarships through programs that didn't make headlines because he didn't want headlines. The work mattered more than the credit. Players around the league noticed. The same guys who spent Sundays trying to tackle him would see him at charity events, at hospitals, at community centers in cities where he didn't even play. And they'd realize something. The humility wasn't an act. You know how some stars have a public persona and a private reality? Tomlinson didn't.
LT's always been, I'd say, a quiet leader. He lets his actions speak for themselves.
He was San Diego. When I think of San Diego, I think of the beaches, and I think of LaDainian.
I remember I would go to some football camps and he showed up. It was like, Michael Jordan was there and it was the greatest thing ever.
So, Reggie.
I got a chance to work out with him. I thought that I was in shape and I was gonna be able to hang with him. I ended up throwing up in the workout. It hit home for me, and this is where I need to get to if I want to make it to the NFL, if I want to be one of the best.
There has never been a greater Charger. They were one of the 2 worst teams when he first got there, and then they became a team that perennially was in the playoffs.
I don't know that people in San Diego can appreciate this young player enough. Absolutely one of the great talents that will ever play this game.
And combine that with the charity things he did.
This bear need a home.
You see him after every single game, take pictures and talk with the kids that were part of his foundation.
Teammates said he treated practice squad players the same way he treated Pro Bowlers, signed autographs for hours after games, remembered names of stadium workers. When the Chargers retired his number 21 in 2015, former opponents flew in to attend. Think about that. Players who'd spent careers trying to end his career showed up to honor him, not because they had to, because they wanted to. But here's what nobody talks about regarding his character, how it actually made him a better player on the field. And that connection reveals everything. August 5th, 2017. Canton, Ohio. The Hall of Fame induction. First ballot, unanimous. LaDainian Tomlinson's final numbers, 13,684 rushing yards, 5th all-time. 145 rushing touchdowns, 2nd all-time. 163 total touchdowns, 3rd all-time behind only Jerry Rice and Emmitt Smith. 18,456 yards from scrimmage, 5th all-time. Named to the NFL's all-decade team for the 2000s. 5 Pro Bowls, 3 first-team All-Pro selections, the 2006 MVP. Every measurable metric screams greatness. But here's the number that matters most. 0 times did opponents say they figured him out.
It's not often a player comes along who defines your team, and the NFL for that matter, for the better part of a decade, like LaDainian Tomlinson. I remember the Friday before the 2001 draft like it was yesterday. John Butler, our GM at the time, said we had a deal with Atlanta that included switching first-round picks. I said, great, and then asked him who he liked with the 5th pick. And I clearly remember him telling me, well, there's this great running back from TCU who could help us immediately. It's funny now, but I also remember asking, is he any good? And I remember that John said, yeah, he's going to be something special. So it's with a great deal of pleasure that I introduce the newest Charger, LaDainian Tomlinson, a Charger now and forever.
He
said, "Oh, let me talk to you," and pulled me to the side and getting to talk. I'm just talking about a career and just talking about how grateful he was to be selected to the Hall of Fame and just to, he was honored and it was that moment. And then continued to talk and he said, "I want you to do it." I said, "Do what?" He said, "I want you to introduce me." And I was like, "You sure? Me?" And I was just taken back. I was humbled, I was shocked, I was surprised, I was speechless. And you just have a man who says, "No, I want you to do it." And he could have picked hundreds, thousands of people that could have done it, that probably had a huge impact on his life. The great Drew Brees, Phillip Rivers, Antonio Gates, 3 Hall of Famers that are probably gonna be first ballot, and chose me.
18 years after his record-breaking season, no running back has scored 31 touchdowns. Not in an era with more offensive rules, not with better training, not with advanced analytics. The record stands untouched because it might be untouchable. Ask defenders who played in that era to name the toughest back they faced, and the same name comes up. Not because of one game, not because of one season, because for 11 years, every Sunday, he was the problem they couldn't solve. Some legacies are measured in rings. Others are measured in the space between what the stats say and what people who actually played remember. LaDainian Tomlinson's legacy lives in both, and that's exactly where greatness belongs. Some legacies need championships to validate them. Others validate themselves. LaDainian Tomlinson did exactly that, and the players who faced him, they'll never forget it. If this video changed how you see LaDainian Tomlinson's greatness, hit that subscribe button. We're building something special here, a place where we honor the legends who defined football the right way. Drop a like if you believe LT belongs in the conversation of greatest running backs ever. And here's what I really want to know. Drop a comment telling me your favorite LaDainian Tomlinson memory. Maybe it was that 2006 season. Maybe it was a specific run that left you speechless. Maybe it was just watching him play with that dark visor and knowing something special was happening. Share your story. Let's celebrate a legend together, because players like LaDainian Tomlinson don't come around often. And when they do, we should never forget what they gave us. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.